Hi, my name is Clifford Wessel. I'm a career coach and also an integral coach. And today I'm going to talk with you about the 4 puzzles it takes to have a meaningful and fulfilling career. Now, there's a lot of videos out there that I think have a lot of misleading advice, and they're talking about what's required to have a fulfilling career. And especially when you get into the really short videos, the TikTok or the short Instagram or messages or even on Twitter, where it's basically, hey, discover the thing you're passionate about and follow your dreams and don't give up on them, and sooner or later you'll succeed and all that kind of stuff. And there's definitely a really positive intent there, and it is really important to know what you're passionate about. I'm often surprised that probably, like, I'm going to say 60 to 80% of my clients don't even know what they're passionate about. And so if you don't know what you're passionate about, it's very hard to live a passionate, fulfilling, meaningful life. So obviously that's a big question, and definitely when I was exploring that question for myself, I thought, hey, once I discover what I'm passionate about, then you know all the pieces will fall into place. And I really thought that discovering my passion was like 95% of the solution, and then the implementation would be 5%. But when I discovered my passion, and you can read people like Joseph Campbell that are very inspirational, and his whole follow your bliss, and doors will open that weren't there before, and people will appear from out of nowhere with a helping hand. And I've experienced all those things, and it's all great. But once I discovered my passion, I realized, my passion is basically helping people live up to their highest potential. I realized that was only 5%, and the 95% was to figure out a way to actually do it, and also, turn that into my career kind of thing. So, because if we lived in a planet that everything was free, then I would just obviously be more than happy to provide career coaching and counseling and integral coaching for free kind of thing. But we all have bills to pay and things, that require, flow of income. And at first, I thought, well, it's kind of a drag, but then I kind of understood that actually being paid for something really forces you to bring your skill level and what you deliver to a higher standard, because when things are for free, people don't have very big expectations. But if your if your services are expensive, then people want to make sure that they're worth it, and so you have to deliver much higher level quality services when you can pay for something. So what are the 4 puzzle pieces? So we talked about your passion. So basically, where we ended up with is like a type of Venn diagram, which I have beautifully drawn out for you. And the spot in the middle, that you want to discover is this overlap of the 4 circles. So what are the circles? The first one is your interests. So your interest is, what you're passionate about, what puts a smile on your face, the things that, you just love to do and would gladly do for free, for, ever, never, never, never kind of thing. Like I mentioned, a lot of people don't know what that is. And for me, that's maybe one of the most enjoyable aspects of the coaching I do, is when people discover, or don't discover because the answer is already inside of you, but when people connect with what's already inside of them and they light up, and you have that, it's very visceral for me as a coach. Like, I can recognize it when it happens, when people are like, yeah, I think I'm super passionate about, architecture. Yeah, I know that's not it. But when people, just like light up around something, then I'm like, hey, we're onto something here. So number 1 is what you're passionate about. Obviously, for your career to be fulfilling and meaningful, you have to be passionate about it, and it's going to vary from person to person. It's like a key that's inside of you, and it's there for you to discover. The next thing is what you're naturally good at. So I call that your strengths. And so from an early age, you've been comparing yourself and contrasting yourself with other people, and you've noticed that you're good at some things and not so good at other things. And if I look at my own childhood, going to school and that kind of thing, I was pretty kind of like middle of the road in almost every subject matter. I was a little bit better than in math, but I wasn't up there with like my buddies who, eventually became engineers and that kind of stuff. And I kind of I think I didn't really, there was like 3 things that kind of struck, I think I resonated with. One of them was when I first started studying biology And I thought, okay, this is really good. And what really interested me in biology was the behavior of bees. And I just loved the complexity of it. And then in grade 12, when I had a chance to take a psychology class in high school, that really was when I realized, oh, the reason I like bees and biology and that kind of stuff is because I like complexity. And humans are way more complex than bees, so I'm even more interested and excited about that. And then there was also a moment in, I went to schools that had a religious background to them, and that was a mandatory subject. And we had to study Jesus' parables. And the teacher would read them out, and I noticed that all the students were quite, you know, confused with them. And I was just picking up the meaning instantaneously. And for me, it was like super obvious what he was saying. And so I think that was the only moment that was like in junior high where I actually felt like I was smart at something. But I had those little clues of what are the things that come naturally to me, and there's things that you're naturally good at. And so as we're putting this puzzle together, you need the things that you're really passionate about, but then you need the things that you're naturally good at. For example, I love singing karaoke and all that kind of stuff, but if you heard me, you'd realize it's not a strength. So, no career, unless, I liked heavy metal, but I don't like heavy metal. So, having a awful voice isn't a plus. And, if you like pop music like I do. So what's next? Next is what I call it your skills, so basically what you're trained and educated to do. A lot of career paths require a minimum level of education and certification and degrees or whatever, and so taking courses, and so now not everything requires an education. I know a lot of people that are very successful in computer sciences, and they're all self-taught, and they self-taught themselves from like a very young age when they were tinkering with their devices and stuff, and that's fine. But some of them, if you're going to be a brain surgeon or whatever, those are not things you can tinker with. You need to get very educated and pass a lot of exams and a lot of other hurdles before they're going to let you, start tinkering with surgery or brain surgery or anything like that. So that's just the reality of it. Some jobs require a lot of education and training, and some don't, and some have minimum qualification and some don't. But if you're passionate about something and you're good at it, and having certain education as a requirement to get a job, then that's just part of the reality of it. So these are the three things, and most people I coach don't actually think about each three of these areas individually, but the one they most ignore is the M, and the M basically stands for what the market is willing to pay for. And this is where people get a lot of trouble, because the marketplace is a shifting marketplace. Let's say that 20 years ago or 15 years ago, you had a very successful Blockbuster store. And then this pesky Netflix came along, right? And at first it was maybe like, oh, we're going to lose some market share. But eventually Netflix completely disrupted the whole video DVD renting industry that had been going strong for many decades, and totally wiped them out. The other day I watched a video, an interview with the manager of the last operating Blockbuster. And I mean, it was really sweet, but it was also kind of sad, because it's like, hey, it's like, that ship sank a long time ago, and it's great that you're trying to keep that kind of thing alive, but it's almost like you should relocate into the Smithsonian or something, and run it like a antique display, or where I live, we have they call it Heritage Park. It's like a park where people dress like pioneers, and it's all old-fashioned. Like, that's almost what they should turn that Blockbuster into, some kind of museum piece. Yeah. Anyways, so the marketplace is changing. New skills are coming into demand, and even the rate for different skills is changing. So at one point in time, you might be able to get X for your work, and now maybe you can only get half X, or you can get 2X, who knows. Often when we get into the topic of salary negotiation, I ask my clients, if you were selling your house today, what would you sell it for? Would you sell it for what you bought it, or what you'd like to, maybe you want to make a 20% profit on the purchase, right? So you say, okay, well, I bought it for this, I'm going to add 20%. Or do you go to your local real estate listings and look at different houses in the neighborhood that are similar to yours and see what they sold for in the last 3 months? So, that's called a comparable. And that's basically how house prices are fixed. You look at 3 similar houses that sold in your neighborhood and you look what they sold for. And then, yours might have maybe a couple of options that the other house didn't have, and you can sell for a little bit more, whatever, but that's basically the point. So if the market's gone up, that's great. If the market's gone down, then your prices have gone down, and that's just the reality of it. And so when you're looking to pursue a career, the compensation isn't fixed, the demand isn't fixed, and you really need to position yourself not so much as somebody that's like in a fixed place, but you want to look at, this is the career I'd like to start in, and here are the different levels I can grow it to, and there's potentially offshoot paths I can take. And you basically want to set yourself up much more as a Swiss Army knife that has the option of moving in different directions. And, I spend a lot of time talking to my clients about that and helping them figure out, different sources of income and that kind of thing. And that's a total separate video. But, for me, I call it that entrepreneurial mindset. A lot of people are pursuing work in the employee mindset, and the employee mindset is not a good mindset in this day and age. And it's built on assumptions and premises that just aren't real and you can't observe them in the marketplace. So entrepreneurial mindset is the way to go. It'll be a separate video. As a quick summary, here's the 4 things you need to figure out: what you're interested in, what your natural motivation is, what puts a big smile on your face you just love to do, what you're naturally strong at, whether it comes easy to you. Basically, your career path should be like a type of river, and you should feel like you're swimming with the river. And then your skills, so you're gonna have to learn something, get some training, education, find a master, do some apprenticeship, whatever, but you need to get the skills. And then finally, make sure that whatever you're developing, the market's willing to pay for it. I could be super passionate about juggling pineapples, and I could be extremely good at it, and I could have a PhD in pineapple jugglergy or whatever you call it. And yeah, if nobody's willing to pay me for it, it's not going to work. So you got to find the sweet spot amongst all of those. And as you can see, the whole puzzle is quite complex. And this is why often a career coach can save you months, if not decades, of spinning your wheels and being frustrated. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And I look forward to seeing you here again.